Now, the position of trade envoy has been a controversial one in this country lately, but you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't think the Brits have hit a six with their choice for Down Under. One of, if not the greatest all-rounder cricket has ever seen, Sir Ian Botham, has taken on the task of selling the UK to Australian business, and he says vice versa. Now, I watched the charismatic personality in action in a room full of bigwigs for just an hour, and I can tell you he is pretty convincing. Business Sydney hosted an event and asked me to chat to the man they call Beefy. We covered trade, obviously, cricket, his career, and the latest headlines on David Warner and Pat Cummins. Plus, and of course, I had to ask Harry and Meghan. But I began by questioning him about his new role.
What did you understand the role to be when you were first asked, and what do you understand it to be now?
Well, typical of myself, I accepted it, and then I thought afterwards, what am I meant to do now? And bull in the get charged. But look, it's a long process. You don't understand everything overnight. And I've picked up on a lot of stuff, and I've enjoyed it. I've been fascinated by the work ethic of some of the people and how hard they've worked to get their companies to where they are. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. My knowledge is expanding. And my teachers at school would never believe that I'd actually say that, because my school reports were very much the same every year. Could do better.
Let me ask you, David Warner. Very curious to know your thoughts on... It's not that controversial, is it? And you can, you're very experienced. You can tell me to sod off if you don't want to answer any of my questions, but we'd love to hear your perspective on this. What are your thoughts on A, whether or not he should be able to move into a leadership position, and B, his wife and he have spoken quite openly today about the impact it's had on them and their children, and that it's unfair to a degree? Look,
you've done you did the crime, he's done the time. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's Australia's problem, not mine.
Such an English cricketer you are.
But look, at the end of the day, I don't really know David that well. I know a lot of the other guys, but I don't really know him as well as some. And look, they all sing his praises. So who am I to judge?
Pat Cummins. Now, I know your thoughts on the BBC prosecuting a woke agenda. You've been very vocal on that. Well, you were a couple of years ago. What do you think about Pat Cummins and athletes in positions of leadership taking stances that some determine are hypocritical because of other areas that they're willing to benefit from, but athletes in general using their platform to speak about things that they care about, or to maybe influence the sponsorship that is able to be a part of a sporting body?
Well, when I played, there wouldn't have been any discussion at all about who was sponsoring, because we'd have grabbed it and just taken it. Look, I think players nowadays, they're travelling more. Pat Cummins, he's always struck me as a really good guy. I've met him a few times. I think he's a terrific bowler. I wondered how he'd do as captain, but he's done well. So, yeah, look, I don't know the ins and outs of it. But the one question I always have for the guys, and it's the same as the protesters in England, and they're entitled to protest if that's what they think. But if you want to glue yourself to a railing, my attitude would be, well, I'm going to leave you there and see how long it takes you to get off it. but that's the way I see it. But no, I just think that if you think it's, and I've said this to people, okay, fine, but what are you going to replace it with? Oh, well, I haven't thought of that. When we had the Laureate Sports Award, the inaugural gathering, where there's about 40 old has-been sportsmen on the stage, and Nelson Mandela got up, and I will always remember this for the rest of my life, and it's been quoted many times now, but I was stood there with him when he said it, and he just simply said, when questioned about where the sport should go, he said, look, at the end of the day, sportsmen will break down more barriers than politicians will ever achieve. And I think that's a way of looking at it, and perhaps make your own mind up from there. But if he said it, it's good enough for me.
No, I think absolutely powerful words. It's a hard segue now to go from someone like him. Actually, I think Meghan Markle did make the comparison at some stage, but to Meghan and Harry, you're British. The documentary on Netflix comes out today. And this wasn't in my list of approved questions, I know, but you can tell me again to sod off if you so wish. But what do you think of Meghan and Harry?
Well, very simply, I haven't seen it, I don't want to see it, and I'm certainly not going to read a book. So I have no idea what they're saying. I don't want to know. I really don't. I have no interest in that whatsoever. I think there's one of the saddest moments in recent months was the passing of the Queen, because I think she gave me my knighthood, and she asked me, she said, quite amusingly, because you go up there and you get immediately stood up, and then she engages you in conversation. And she said to me, she said, Ian, you know I'm not particularly fond of cricket. I said, yes, ma'am. But she said, tell me about the charity work you do. And I spoke to her, and it was about 4 minutes. And yet she had another 99 people to do, as I was second up there. And every single one she spoke to, and spoke in depth, and most of the time without any prompting. She's was an absolutely remarkable leader, and I think that we will certainly honour her existence and her life and what she gave us. And I think that she would be bitterly disappointed with a lot of things that have gone on recently.
And what about our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese? Have you met him, first of all?
No, I haven't, no.
Will you meet him at some stage? Surely.
Well, I hope so.
Well, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal met him. Surely you're up there.
Who?
Yeah, he's very good value.